here to analyze for you today. From Growler Bed to Jay's got stats. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Growler Podcast.
All right, welcome into the latest edition of PD&Jay and the Growler here. Jay, we wanted to pull the music back in because we got a special guest here this week, and we have brought in Bengals offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher to join us. Pitch, what's up?
It's a heck of a jingle right there.
Oh, we've got more. We've got more jingles where that came from. Yeah, it's based out of Peaches and Herb. Because we're reunited, we took a hiatus, and now that we're back together, we had the Bengal Boys. Do you know the Bengal Boys?
I've heard of the Bengal Boys. Yeah.
Yes, they throw together. I reached out to them, and they're like, "We got you. We're going to come up with some stuff." So the
one that comes to mind is the move Mitch, get out the way. That was
yeah.
I think that's them.
Yeah, absolutely. I do. I think the coaches, the Bengals boys, this is a message to them. I'm sure they're listening. More coaches songs is what we need. That's what it's about.
Dan's on the fence.
That did not come from me.
Okay, that's from me. I'm sending my message out to them. We'll just play them here on the podcast for people, and we'll see how it goes. I want to, Jay and I thought like this would be a great time to catch up with you. Because obviously we talked at the combine and it's all very general about things you want to do and how it goes. Well, now that you went through the process and landed on a lot of old and new pieces to kind of recalibrate, I thought it'd be interesting to just retouch on why certain players stood out and how it can fit into sort of what the new vision can be of the offense. You have Mike Gesicki, you have Zack Moss, you now have Trent Brown at right tackle. Brought back Trent Irwin, Drew Sample, Tanner Hudson, Travion Williams, Joe Mixon goes to Houston. So a lot of movement. I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can do there. Before we dive into the whole process, the news is Trent Brown. And so like how big does a human need to be to play tackle here, Dan? I mean, it just seems like we get the style. Like, I think we get what you're looking for.
Yeah, no, we got two of the biggest. I know that. Just having a chance to add Trent, I think, is a big deal for us. I think, if you just look over the course of his career at different stops, he's been a top tier pass protector just about all the way through. And he does really good things in the run game too. I mean, a man that big and that powerful, he can generate movement that few guys at this level can generate because of the guys that are across from him. I mean, it's not when you're in one-on-one situations in the NFL, you don't expect a lot of actual movement to be generated. You expect a guy to win with leverage and technique, but in terms of actually displacing a defender, you see it on double teams, but you don't see it all that much on base blocks, one-on-one, and you turn on Trent's tape and it's there. And there's obviously, things that we'll work with him on and try to get the absolute most out of his game, but he's a veteran. He knows how to play. He's one of the top pass protectors, regardless of what side when you look at the tape. And so just really excited that we get a chance to add him in the mix.
I'm not going to ask you to divulge your draft plans or anything like that, but I think there's a pretty safe assumption you guys are still going to target that position in the draft. How delicate is that conversation? What, you bring in a guy, you draft a guy high and all of a sudden Trent's having to fight for a starting job as opposed to today, he's probably viewing himself as the starter.
Yeah. I think it's just important to add really competitive people that have confidence in themselves. I think that question was posed to him yesterday, and I think you can tell by his response that that's not something that really phases him. I think, he's a vet who's proven his game and is very comfortable in his own skin and knows the type of value that he's going to bring to an organization. And then with regard to, how it affects us in the draft, I mean, I think this time of year, you're really just aiming to, make sure that there's no glaring holes in your roster. And when you're able to do that, you can then approach the draft and really truly utilize all the hard work and the quality work that our personnel guys have put in throughout the year of let's add great football players. And if you're not pigeonholed into having to fill needs per se, need obviously plays into it. It's not something that you just don't factor, but if you're not having to fill glaring needs, then I think that just frees you up to make, really good decisions for the long-term health of the roster. And, I think we're doing a good job of putting ourselves in that position.
Yeah. I'm curious, with Brown, we joke about the size and these guys are huge, but beyond the, hey, bigger humans are better. I mean, what is the specific advantage of massive guys where you do sacrifice? We talked a little bit about this at the combine,
Sure.
particularly at the tackle position, though. I mean, having that type of size, what is the biggest advantage to why you guys have been drawn to those types?
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at it in two different factors, right? The protection part and the run game part. Protection wise, what size gives you, number one, is reach, and then just the bulk to anchor and absorb a bull rush and not give ground. Like that's when you watch Trent's tape, that just jumps right out at you, is that number one, he has a good range for a man his size, and then when he engages a rusher on the edge, and that rusher tries to do anything other than run around him, he's able to blunt that rush and then keep the width of the pocket. That's something that's so critical, is that now, and I think a lot of times, quite honestly, guys just quit. Guys stop rushing because when they engage him and they try to collapse him to the spot, and they're not going anywhere. They stop. They convert to try to counter or jump up and knock it. It can be probably, I've never been in that position and never will be, but I imagine pretty defeating when you're trying to move this human and he's just not going anywhere. So that's where size comes in that, in the protection part of it, and then in the run game, it just naturally, bigger guys are going to be more powerful people. And now they have to then play with great technique and pad level and avoid, having, the things that affect big guys negatively, which is guys being able to play lower than them and, do things of that nature. But, I think Trent does a good job of that as well. So, the power that it gives you in the run game, the anchor that it gives you in protection are just some natural benefits to size.
And you guys flip into the gap scheme, more of that downhill push run game, really takes some of the need for super athletes, kind of out of it too, right? Where a lot of teams shift when you're playing the wide zone they're the smaller guys ish, you're down to 305, 315, and they're more focused on movement. But these guys, power, downhill, people mover is
and listen, we're all in search of the guys that can do all of it, right?
Right.
And just because we lean in one direction potentially doesn't mean that we completely remove ourselves from another. It's about finding the right balance, and I do think you can still have variety of scheme based on how we're built. But you're on the right path with that assessment. I mean, it's a sliding scale, and just like anything in life, you give something up to get something in return. And so I'm excited about how we're built. I'm excited we get a chance to add a guy of that caliber at this stage. And I think it's only going to help us moving forward.
5 big guys on the O-line, 5 big rings, 5 combined Super Bowl rings among that group. Is that a fringe benefit, or is there a real value in having guys that have done something that this franchise is still trying to accomplish?
I think there's real value. I don't think necessarily that, that it might not be a deciding factor when you're acquiring player A over player B, but it certainly doesn't hurt. And then once you've added that to the building, you can draw on that from these guys. There's a confidence, there's a quiet confidence, I think, that comes with guys that have the validation of a Super Bowl ring. There's a been there, done that, to where it's like, no one's going to be overwhelmed by the situation. Now, I think we're composed of guys, even our guys that don't have Super Bowl rings, none of them have shown that they're going to be overwhelmed by that situation either. I think you saw that a couple of years ago in the run we made. So, but yeah, absolutely, it helps. We love having guys with that experience and that success and those pelts on the wall. It's helpful.
So we want to kind of have a little fun. You guys love to talk ball. It's famously what you love to do, and do a lot of it with players. Whatever, we want to do it the same way with sort of your free agent process, specifically focusing on Mike Gesicki and Zack Moss. I mean, take me through before we dive into some plays some that you picked out, and some that I think feature some other things that are interesting. What is the process for you? Let's take somebody like Mike Gesicki. What is the process from the number one thing that you do, in route to him, to ending up with, this is the guy, he's signed, shaking his hand? Like what was that like for you, and what stood out for you along that path?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just starts with you have to understand what are the universe of available players, in this case, who are the unrestricted free agents, and then that universe is changing when you get guys that become cap casualties at other places, and now they get added to the pool of available players. And you just start by doing the hard work. You go right down the list, and you just start watching them, and the position coach, the position coaches are really the experts on the players. As the coordinator, I have to have watched them all, but maybe I've got to watch them at a little bit faster clip because I got more guys to watch. And so then you let the position coach really kind of take the lead on how they view the player. And then once the universe of guys starts to shrink, of guys that are real targets, now then I can dive back in and really detail all of them. So that's kind of the evaluation process from a free agency standpoint, and then that leads you to your, maybe your smaller group of guys that you think are actually going to be in the wheelhouse. And then a lot of it, is discussions that happen, between our personnel department and representation for these players, and how those things play out also affects the universe of players that are available to you, and then usually it whittles down to, you got a choice of a couple guys, based on all these other factors that have played in, and you give your opinion when it's asked, and then you hope for the best. And I'm glad with, I'm happy with how everything's worked out. I really am.
So who watched Gesicki, Troy Walters or James Casey?
He's a tight end. James Casey.
He's a tight end.
He's a tight end.
He's certainly doing a lot of Troy Walters things.
He's a versatile skill set. He's you look at where he's aligned over the course of his career, and he spent a lot of time in the slot, detached from the line. He's got a good amount of experience as an attached player as well, whether that be as a true Y attached to the tackle, or in a wing attached to the Y as a second tight end. So there's versatility with where you can align them, and there's obviously a lot of versatility within the skill set. And that poses challenges to a defense, to a defensive coordinator. How are they going to treat this player? That's a big deal, and it's a big deal for us to have studied and have a feel for how we think they're going to treat the player, because that'll affect how we game plan, and then being able to adjust off of that if they surprise us. But yeah, he's dynamic. I mean, there's a lot that he can do that there's not a lot of guys that look like him that have that skill set.
On that note, we kind of reached out to you, and you picked out a couple of plays that stood out to you in regards to Gesicki, and
Sure.
let's talk through them here for a second. Here's our first one. So we've got him against the Jets, running just a first down here out on 3rd and 6.
Yeah. So you can see. So the thing that's impressive about this is very quickly he's able to identify, that he's got man coverage. All right, and it's 5-man rush man coverage. So he knows that defender has got to keep inside leverage. So you see when he comes off the ball, he initially stems inside a little bit, and he stabs at him. So that gets the defender to hop inside. Once he has him inside, he knows he's got an outbreaking route. So he's got the leverage he wants, but he doesn't just take it right now. He pushes back vertical. And so that secondary push vertical is what gets the DB to open his hips and turn him towards his own goal line. Once he's done that, Now it's the lateral break on the sail route that is able to create so much separation. You kind of see it with that secondary push up right there. And that's where now he creates 2.5 yards of separation instead of a 0.5 yard of separation. And so that's route savviness, that's coverage recognition, and then that's having the quick twitch in his body to actually be able to make that break. Which again, for a guy who's as tall as he is, the top of the route is what's so impressive, because usually those taller guys lumber a little bit through the top of the route, but he has the quickness and the movement skills of a player who's shorter. And so now you combine those skills with the benefit of the catch radius of a player his size, and he becomes a really difficult cover.
Yeah, that's an unbelievable. I mean, he's running that. That's a slot receiver route. You know what I mean, right? I mean, that's all that is. And here's another one on third down, another third down conversion.
Yeah. So this is just a good example of the catch radius, right? And so the start of this play, the Patriots had started the halfback out at 1. They brought him back in, which is typical to try to get the defense to tell you what kind of coverage you're in. And so you have him matched up against a corner here. He's backside. He's the lone split out, eligible receiver over there. And, generally that's not for most tight ends in the league, that's not a great matchup in your favor athletically, right? Is corner on tight end. So it's not always a high alert to try to even take that matchup, but you could tell this was, I think, the third play of the game. So they had obviously, this was one of their top third downs going into the week. And so they knew they wanted to take this matchup. So that tells you a lot about, how they felt about his ability versus corners, even not just safeties. And then again, I think you see the top of the break, you see quickness, you see fluidity, and then you see the ability for the quarterback to throw this ball away from color. So he feels the corner closing, but he's confident enough to put the ball in front. And then Mike has the confidence in his hands to reach out, snatch, and then naturally turn his body to protect from the defender. So just a good example of catch radius, of athleticism through the top of the route, size really showing up here too. And again, this is the first third down of the game, went to him in a critical moment, and he made a big play.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jay.
Well, I was just gonna say, with that size advantage he has over most slot corners, does he get a lot of free releases? I imagine he probably doesn't see press very often.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on the situation. Yeah, I think he does. He gets access a decent amount. You see true press less in the slot, just in general. Unless it's a specific passing down situation where you're potentially getting some 2-man or some one lurk, something like that. But I mean, he gets a decent amount of access, just by the nature of where he lines up.
I want to go to something that Joe Burrow probably would start with, and that is red zone, because this is really unlike something that Joe has specifically. I mean, this is like, you can do things that T. Higgins can do. You can throw to high levels. You can, that I got my guy one-on-one, trust him, that Joe tells us after every game talking about touchdowns, is what you get with Gesicki here, and what he's able to do. What does that open up? What does he open up inside the 20 specifically? And we're a bunch of these.
It's why a lot of times when you get down here, it's an old action, but you think, players are not plays, right? And obviously you need to have the good calls to put players in those spots, but the field shrinks. So as the field shrinks, the windows shrink. Now, what helps counteract that? A guy with a giant catch radius that just naturally creates a bigger window. And so that's where, size, jumping ability to contort, like you see here, right? The ability to jump, turn, contort, finish, right? Great eyes here, great finish, and then have the body control and awareness to get his feet in bounds. That's a rare play right there for the tight end position. The one you're seeing here is having the vertical speed, again, right? A little bit of a hesitation release, right? To get him to think maybe this is going to be an intermediary route. And then he's able to reaccelerate and get past this defender. The defender's playing trail technique, so he thinks he has help, which he does. But again, now that's where the big body comes in, as a quarterback can target this throw away from the safety and trust that he's going to be able to go reach and make that play. So that's a great combination look there of the speed to get on top of the second level defender, and then the size, catch radius to be able to really create the spot to even throw that ball. This is a good look here, just the shallow cross, play strength, kind of a token effort there from Shaq Leonard trying to bump him, but still, I mean, that's one of those things. Anytime you're running shallow down here in the red zone, like you're going to get chucked, and you got to be able to run through that, and then have the speed and another just good look there of him being able to turn and reach and catch behind him, and just confidence in his hands. That's what you see over and over again, right? Is he just very confident of reaching and catching, plucking the ball. Good high point look there. And then again, here's the one we just saw too in the back of the end zone. Just pretty spectacular body control. And the thing you'd like to, like, as I've gotten to know this dude a little bit, and just hearing people that have played with him and coached on teams that he was on, like, this guy's got some juice. He's got energy. You see him get up after this thing, and everybody makes fun of the stupid gritty and all that, but like just having that spark, and it's not just on game day. You hear how this guy comes to practice every day, and brings that energy, and those are things that most people don't get to see, but they're critical to the team. They're critical that you go out there on a Wednesday and you have a great practice, because there's some people bopping around out there like they're happy to be there. And that's, from everything I hear about this guy, we're getting that in Mike, and that makes me excited as the coordinator, because I'm responsible for that. I'm responsible for the energy. I'm responsible for the quality of our week leading up to the game, and you need guys like that to help in that effort.
And I imagine, losing a guy like Joe, now Mike can kind of come in and fill that role.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Joe always brought energy. Joe practiced so hard, and just, you watch the way he finished runs in practice, and you watch, how much pride he took in taking care of his body so that he could be out there every day practicing. And that's something, that's not lost on his coaches or his teammates, and you do have to find a way to replicate that, and having a guy like Mike helps you in that effort.
Well, from Joe, though, you move to the Chase Brown, Zack Moss combo now, which is, opens up, again, opportunities for you to do a number of different things. I know we talked with Brian towards the end of the last year, and he talked about, when Chase is on the field, there's a few different types of runs that you can run, sneaking out the back door, using his speed in different ways that were different than what Joe offered. And that's great. Having that variety really helped open up the run game over the course of last season. What is that, with Zack Moss that brings him? How is he different than Chase Brown, and how does he complement in that respect?
Yeah, I know. I think Zack, it's hard for me to sit here and pinpoint and say, okay, like Zack runs these two schemes or whatever, because I think he's got a really well-rounded skill set. I really do. I think he's one of these guys that's kind of maybe been under the radar nationally, and all he's done is step up and produce, and anytime he's been asked to do that. I think he's run the majority of his career from the gun. It doesn't mean he can't be a successful runner from under center, depending on how our we end up being, balanced from that regard. But he's got a lot of experience in the gun. To me, he's a guy that he really does a great job of just of churning out more than what's initially there. Like he has exceptional contact balance. He's decisive. Like he will hit small creases with decisiveness and carry acceleration through that. And that's what allows him to rip through some of these tackles. Like, he's very natural, spinning off the first defender, keeping his balance, staying north-south. And I think when you really dive into the tape, you kind of see that over and over again. It's like, man, these guys, like, these runs do not look like they should be like 12, 13, 16-yard runs. And you just, at the end of it, you're like, man, he squeezed out an extra 8 there, and it goes kind of unnoticed. But I mean, those are the runs that when you get going in a game and all of a sudden, like I've heard this before, like, the best third down team is the team that goes first down, second down, first down, like that's, and those ability to squeeze out chain moving plays, that's a big deal. And I think he really has that.
Let's take a couple of examples that you kind of plucked. for us to take a look at here. This first one against the Rams. I mean, exactly what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a perfect example. So this is a well-blocked run. I mean, this is a gap scheme with a pulling guard. I mean, everybody's hat placement, everything's blocked up. I mean, I think he's first touched it about 4 yards down the field. But then he takes what could be right there about a 7-yard run, right? Once he's contacted by 2 defenders, and it ends up a 20-yard run. This is contact balance. It's leg drive. It's just want to. Like a lot of this is just like, who is this dude? How's this guy made? Like he's just gonna battle. He's gonna fight. Here's another example. So this is another gap scheme run here. No puller, but kind of against the unusual front, and so the angles for the line get a little distorted. They plug a backer, and now the center's got to come off quick, and yet the Browns really kind of end up with an unblocked hitter in the hole here. They do a good job of getting a hand on him late, but he really takes what in a lot of ways here you could argue should be a 1 or 2 yard run, and same thing. Now he turns it into 20. And he does it with that initial lateral quickness to elude the first defender, and he does it by running through and getting you 7 more from the contact from the third level there. So it's just like this guy. He's got some explosive plays in the like I'm talking long runs. He has those in the resume, but he's got a ton of these runs. He's got a ton of just. That may, at the end of the day, like this run, as you guys are looking back and writing your articles on Sunday night and Monday morning, like these are the runs that might get lost in the shuffle, but then when you go back and you watch them and there's 2 of them in every game, I mean, that's massive for the offense and the ability to stay on schedule and move the ball down the field. So, I think this is just really as a runner, this is what he brings, along with all the other stuff that he brings. And as a pass protector, as a pass catcher, and then again as a dude, like just spending a full day with this guy the other day. I mean, I had heard good things, but I mean, I came away fired up that he's going to be part of our team, just because I think the professionalism, the maturity, the intelligence, the work ethic, the consistency of the guy you're going to get every single day. Hearing him talk about it, I mean, he's a pro. He's a freaking pro, and I'm glad we got him.
You made a good point, because when I was cutting this up, that something that really struck me, that people always talk about yards after contact as if you shake a tackle and then break free, like he does on that first run against the Rams. But that one there, where the safety hits him and he never loses contact, but he carries him another 7 or 8 yards. Do you see a lot of that on his film?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's because he plays with a very natural low pad level, but he plays with low pad level without like a overarching forward lean. So like with a lot of guys that play with a heavy forward lean, they're physical finishers, but it's hard for them to keep their feet. Like this guy plays with low pads, low center of gravity without a ton of forward lean. So he keeps his feet better as he plays through this contact. So it might not be like punishing blows on second and third level players, but they're getting glancing blows, and he's keeping his balance and he's staying on his feet to grind out an extra 4 or 5 more. So that's kind of how I would maybe characterize, his style. It's less like downhill physical punishing finish, and it's more low center of gravity, play off these tackle attempts, keep my feet, churn out extra.
Yeah, we use things like rushing yards over expected, the next gen stats, and the percentage of rushes that were over expected, and he was an analytics darling really in that regard last year, really throughout his career, but especially last year, that made him spot up. But that's just, a quantification of exactly what you're talking about here. It's the one extra move to get a little bit extra every time. Maybe you're not going to get the big burner speed, but you have Chase Brown for that. But all those intermediate runs show up a lot. The one thing I wanted to ask you about that I haven't really heard a lot about is something that we saw here, and always good when you see it against Baltimore. And now Patrick Queen, a guy who's going to be playing for Pittsburgh, and that is him out of the backfield catching balls. And this is a wheel route for a touchdown against Queen against Baltimore. That's a throw that Joe Burrow will make a million times, right? He'll throw that. He'll throw the ball to the outside and trust his guy to go win a one-on-one. What have you seen from him catching the ball and making plays out of the backfield.
This is a really good play. And I think a lot of Zach's production in the pass game is just number one. I think he'll be really good in the screen game because I think, again, he's the kind of guy you get in space. He's got lateral quickness to make the first miss, and now you just really created those same scenarios we just saw, at the second and third level of those run clips. I think so. He can do that. He's got great block setup. Part of being getting pass catching production at the running back position is having the trust of the coaching staff to put you in there in those spots that you're going to execute the protection element of it. And then being able to quickly process when I'm not needed in protection and getting out to my check down, getting to where I need to be to, number one, maybe provide the low part of the influence on the zone coverage, right? If we're trying to high-low a zone defender, we got to get you out so that you are actually influencing that defender we're trying to influence. And then just being in that spot to catch the ball, make somebody miss, and now, those are hidden yards, right? Those check down yards. So I think with Zach, you have that guy, number one, that you trust to protect and that is smart and can see when he can get out and get out quickly so that he then becomes available. And then when we do free release him from the backfield, like the clip you just showed, obviously he can do it. So I think just like I mentioned at the very start with him, just a very well-rounded skill set in a number of different areas.
Does that include pass pro? I mean, you guys were looking for that all year last year, ended up kind of settling on Drew Sample back there.
For sure. It does. You see it on base downs. He did a little bit of third down last year in Indy. He did, some more in his prior stop in Buffalo as well. So absolutely, he's shown the ability to be really good in that phase. And then you referenced Drew. I mean, Drew is obviously showed that he's very capable in that phase. So that's great for us moving forward. The more guys we can have that we trust to do that, the better, because then we can mix and match and we can use whoever we need to use on a game-to-game basis.
Yeah. Dan, thanks a ton for going through all that stuff with us. I think it's super helpful for fans to get a good feel for, the types of players you're getting and what you can do with it. I mean, does this happen now and you go through all this and this is what you got? And do you go right back to the playbook and start putting in new notes about or adding pages? You're like, add 7 pages to the playbook in certain corners now when you see what you can do with some new skill sets?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all. It's ever evolving, like I have a running document that's just a Word document that's like always up on my computer that as I'm watching if I'm watching free agents or I'm watching college players and I see something that I like schematically, I just type it in there with the play reference. And so now I can, once we end up putting all of the evaluation process to bed and we're back full bore on scheme, I can just pop this thing open and okay, yeah, that was cool. Like let's go back and look at that. Maybe that fits us. Maybe this fits us. So I think you're always open to, new stuff. I think we have, a lot of volume already that's really good. And now it's just about plugging, these guys into those spots. And then it'll grow organically, it'll move in the direction it needs to move based on how we're playing and based on who we have available to us. So, excited about it. It's a fun time of year. You get to add these guys and really look forward to next season.
Well, I look forward to, I wrote about Joe Burrow's back shoulder proficiency a couple of years ago. I look forward to watching Joe Burrow practice through the offseason back shoulders to Mike Gesicki, because that feels like if they could develop the chemistry that he has with some guys, it'll never necessarily be Burrow to Chase. But with that catch radius, that feels like that could be among those unstoppable weapons,
Yeah, it's definitely a big part of what he can do. I mean, all you got to do is turn the tape on and you see that. So we'll get to work on it.
I appreciate it, Dan. Thanks for all of your time. Now get to work on all those draft kits. Okay?
We'll do, man.
A lot to do.
All right. Great to see you guys.
Right. Yep. Thank you, Dan.
Time, Dan. Yep. Have a good one. All right, Dan Pitcher. Thanks, Dan, for joining us.